Ooh, look at that ugly headlight. And look at that brand new headlight. So these are Amazon headlights. Overall, pretty nice quality. If you have these foggy, nasty headlights, there's a couple fixes. One, there's a million videos. Toothpaste and all that stuff is trash. You can actually get compound, wet sand this with a very fine sandpaper and buff the light, and that works okay. Or you can wet sand it and then clear coat the light, and that works okay. Or in this case, I gave this customer some options, and they went for just the brand new lights, mainly because it has a pretty cool LED strip. So check it out. And I also converted these to be LED headlights as well. So first, we're gonna do the parking light setting. So there we get the LED strip on, and we get the two amber lights. And next, we're gonna do actually headlights on. So we get, these LEDs are pretty bright. Can't say as to whether they're blinding or not, but they do look good. And then here's high beam as well. So those are the, that's the outcome. This one, the problem with this one is actually the bulbs were in op anyway. So he went to drive it and he couldn't see anything. So let me walk you through what I did. First things first, whether you're trying to troubleshoot your headlights not working or you're just trying to change them, these are kind of hard to access. Everything's hard to access nowadays. So you might be able to get at your bulbs, back through here. If you look in there, you can get to them. But you figure out what your real problem is, and then let's say you're going to go ahead and replace the headlights. The headlights on this Silverado are actually a little bit tricky, and I've already had this apart. I just lightly buttoned it back up. This whole piece has to come off. They're held in by these clips all over. I put one back in just to show how to do the job. So I'm going to get my faithful little flathead screwdriver that I've had since I was 16. So right here, if you look at that clip, I'm just going to show you one. If you can do one, you can do them all. Right, I just kind of get under there and I just work it a little bit like this. I do actually have the clip panel puller. I have all kinds of stuff, but I like the flathead screwdriver. And I'm just going to organize the parts here. So you're going to take off a whole bunch of those. They're very easy to see. You're going to remove this whole piece and you put it someplace safe. Then the grill is actually the reason that I buttoned this thing up and decided to make a video. I've worked on a million Chevys, and the grills used to be easier to pull off. Actually, these ones are tough. So I've already actually got this one freed up, and I realized when you're back here, you can't see really well. But these clips right here, those metal clips, those are going to be a pain in the butt. Now there's some 10 millimeter bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yank those out, put them somewhere. Easy. Then you're going to go to tug this, it's not going to come off. So back in the day, I used to grab the grills right here and just a quick pop, and they would come off. And this one didn't really want to come off. So this is what I found works really well. Just regular needle nose pliers. From the backside, you're going to come in, right? And you can see like that clip down there would be popped through this metal, and you can actually release it with the needle nose, the best way I've found. Now I knew we wouldn't be able to see that very well, so I went ahead and I kept the grill loose. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to switch this, prop it up. I'm going to set the grill on this box. Like I said, I've already got it ready to go. So you got to kind of get those clips loose, and then you're going to lift up and take it off. Now check this out. Remember, it's not just GM, it's all the automakers. They don't really care about you. They don't care about me either, if it makes you feel any better. They care about the assembly line workers. So this grill pops on like easy, but when you go get it off, I'm telling you, it really does suck. So the thing to do, while inside the truck, you got to reach around the backside, and if you get your pliers just like this, and you squeeze these little tabs in right here, try to get a good view, If you squeeze those in like that, it'll pop right out. I tried a few different things. I tried prying a little bit. Prying didn't really work out. If you just yank it, it's gonna snap it's gonna snap off right here. In fact, I even released them and I thought it was good to go, and I yanked it and look, I lost one. That one is stuck right here. So if you pull on it, the clip is not gonna break. The actual plastic of the grill is gonna break. So check it out. I'm gonna attempt to just do what I was saying with one hand. So look, if I squeeze it just right on the back side, it'll pop loose. Now I need to use my other hand to pull that out. Okay, that's how you gotta take them out. And I've tried a bunch of different stuff over the years, and it just seems like these are much more challenging than they used to be. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna epoxy this one back on. So I'm just looking at the shape. It looks like it'll be pretty easy because there's a lot of surface area there. So I'm gonna fix that one, coming back to that. So now from there, let me put my tools back. I have to put my tools back into place. From there, it's easy to look at the headlights. You got 10 millimeter headed bolts. They're actually 6x1.0 if you really want to get technical, but you'll call it 10 millimeter because that's the size tool that you put on there. Those two, and then the hidden one is down here. So, it's a little tough to see. I'm gonna grab a light real quick. I got a million different lights. I'm gonna figure out which one I'm gonna use right now. I'm gonna use the big mag light because I know right where it's at. So, that one in there, that one right there is gonna be a pain in the butt. This is what I recommend. If you look up service information, it's probably gonna tell you to pull this wing lid or drop the bumper down or whatever. I wouldn't do that. I'd go right back here, as I already have, and there's a 10 millimeter bolt right here. Take that out. Turn your wheels or whatever you got to do. I use a swivel impact socket. Then you're gonna be able to pull this fender liner back, and then look, you can actually get up in there. See, now you can see that bolt. So you're gonna have to reach in there and work with it like that. It's really not that bad. So you get those ones out, like I have on this headlight. And then you gotta really carefully work the light out. So I'm gonna work the light out, nice and careful. I don't have my hands-free set up, and I'm not looking to make a big project out of this job. So I'm kind of looking in the back, checking what I'm stuck on. It's mostly really gonna be this fender right here, and you gotta be mindful of this painted surface on the bumper, but I had no problems doing it this way. So I don't want to shake my tool tray loose. Let me get rid of this. This I actually used for that bolt behind the bumper cover. I snuck it through the little crack. Alright, so let me get this baby out here. And they can be a pain, I won't deny. These are tight fit. But all modern cars now have gotten less friendly for like doing, say, a headlight or something. I can actually explain why. It's part of my job. Okay, so from here, check this out. Down here, this connector, we need to get that off. I'm going to demonstrate how right here. Squeeze and pull. So I was squeezing that little latch right there. And that's going to release it. Sometimes it helps if you push, squeeze, and pull. Push them together, like further connected, squeeze and pull. Let me take this light. This light's trash, so normally I would put down a cloth or something. I'm just gonna set it down. So when you get to this point, you know, really the disassembly is pretty much done. So I guess one thing, if for some reason you had an aftermarket harness, these wire colors are consistent on all GMs. The two wires you want to keep in mind are the brown and the black. So if these harnesses right here should be color coded, but if for some reason they've been changed, they may be all the same color, you'd refer back to there. But this is the thing, this light doesn't have an LED running light. This one does. Notice this one I've got set on the cloth gloves and it's got the plastic wrap. So that LED strip needs to get wired in with these 2 wires. Now, where are you going to land those wires, or what are you going to wire them to? That's what I'm going to tell you. Look at you, wild animals. What are you doing down here? So, if you look at this, these wire colors, you're going to want to find your brown and your black. The brown is the positive for the parking lights. Parking lights are going to be those amber lights. So I'm wiring them so that they come on with those. So these 2 are the, these 2 are the brown and black that I want. Now, pretty much all the blacks are going to go to the same ground, but these 2 wires, I want to keep those in mind. The other thing is, the original problem with this truck was the lights didn't work. And so, I went over to check it out in his driveway. It's a neighbor. I looked and I said, man, those bulbs are good. And then come to think of it, he bought the bulbs and I put them in there for him probably 2 years ago. But these are the Silver Star high output bulbs. I never, ever, ever recommend these, but he already had them. He asked me to put them in, so I did. So doing a little wiggling, all of a sudden it started working. So let me show you what I found here. So I just got to disconnect this bulb, which I really can't do one-handed. I mean, you can actually already see this harness is melted here. So the harness is shot, and it's, even if I have to get rough and break this, it's fine. So this is notorious on those Silver Star bulbs. It's just, I've seen it a million times. So I wiggle it, it starts to work, but I tell him, dude, I put those in for you, but I really should have told you back then, don't use these. So I'm going to take those out. What I'm going to change it over to are going to be these LEDs. I highly recommend the LED for a few reasons. One, it should be much longer lasting, if not lifetime. And 2, you're going to get a lot more light out of the amps they draw. So this is burned because it was pulling too many amps, too much current, too much electricity flow. It probably had a little bit of a loose connection. It got hot, resistance is heat. It burns the harness, and there you go. So this I'm going to cut off. Now, I needed to get a repair kit, repair harness. So this is another Amazon product. I'll dig up and I'll find the links to this crap. So this is going to get spliced in to replace this defective one. I don't want to replace this whole harness. It's a waste of money. The only problem is this one connector. So black's going to go to black, red is going to go to yellow, and I'm going to splice that one in. And additionally, I'm going to get rid of the high beam incandescent or halogen or, standard bulb. You can see they can come out a little tough sometimes. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to go both LEDs, high and low beams. And I'm going to splice in the new harness, and I'm going to splice in our running light to these 2 wires right here, brown and black. And that's going to give you that same function. Now, what I'm going to use, I could do a few different things, but I'm actually going to use these heat shrink connectors. 3M makes them. They're really nice. These are cheap ones. They're knockoffs, but you know what? They're actually pretty stinking good. So that's what I'm going to do right now. You can watch if you want. It's not exactly rocket science. All right, so first things first, I'm just going to pull our harness off. I'm going to, in fact, actually, I'm going to do our wiring right here on this old one. That way I'm sliding it all over the thing, but it's on the junk headlights, so I don't really care. So I'm going to go ahead, cut these 2 about right here. Get rid of that one. Do a little wire strip. I don't know, 1/2 inch-ish. Okay, so those 2 are there. Now I'm going to use, in this case, the pink heat shrink connectors. Twist them a little. Make sure it's in all the way. Crimpers. It's on. So I would always do heat shrink connect on something like this because it's going to be exposed to the elements, and if you don't, it will not be the last time it needs to be done. These heat shrink connectors will last as long as the truck. And then these 2 are already pre-stripped. Just gonna pull them. We're going red to yellow. just means it's positive. Technically, on the regular bulb, you could probably wire this backwards. But on the LED, it definitely can't be wired backwards. Needs to be correct for sure. So, okay, those two are good. Now I could heat shrink that, but because I'm gonna also do these other two wires, I'm just gonna do them all together. So I'm going to, in fact, I can only really start these, but that's all right. Get that brown one, that black one. I'm gonna strip this. Now this one has to actually accept the little LED running light strip, the aftermarket one. So I'm going to actually use the blue, slightly larger heat shrink, and I'm going to put it on this side, but I'm not going to put it on that side because I need to add in that little running light LED connection. So same thing, just going to crimp. And just make sure you don't let the wire pull out as you're crimping, because then you'll have to cut it off. And the wire will be a little bit short and kind of ugly looking. Okay, that one's got like a rogue wire trying to go off the side. So twist them up to keep them together. Same thing. This is like watching paint dry. But I'm just gonna knock it out. Okay, same. Crimped. Now, pull the harness. I'm going to keep these regular bulbs. I don't really like LED for anything to do with turn signals, and you get into the flashing fast and whatnot. Now that's a little clip I just pulled. So I'm just going to set this harness down, get rid of this light, be a really good boy, and I'm going to donate my sweatshirt to the cause here, and I'll be really mad if I catch it on fire. Then I'm going to bring this one over. So here's our new light. So what I need to do is get rid of these green little protective things so nothing gets inside. And if it leaves a little bit on the edge, it's not that big of a deal. There's a gasket that's going to seal the bulbs in there. So now that those are pulled, I'm just going to go ahead and start dropping them in. Line the little tabs up. And I noticed on the last one, the little slots where the bulb actually engages were slightly different. So working with aftermarket stuff, sometimes going to need a little extra attention. So that one, yeah, you can see that one did go in, but the little tab right there actually snapped. It's not structural, so we're okay. That's one little gripe about the aftermarket stuff, but I'm not really going to pick on this product because, you know, there's stuff that's twice as much money that has the same amount of fitment issues. So I'm gonna be okay with it. Just make sure, same with that one. Just make sure those get snugged in there. You want them pulled in so it's going to seal the gasket. This one is actually the high beam. I'm going to disconnect the high beam here. Set that to the side. Got the low beam kind of up in its general area. I'm going to pull these wires where I want them, and then I'm going to clip in the connector. Little holder there. So we're looking pretty good here. And then let's go ahead and we'll make these connections now. I'm strip the black one back a little bit more, and the red one. And actually, I stripped just a little bit too much off that red one. Let me cut the wire so it's not too long. So now, because I opened up these, I'm gonna look at them real closely and make sure that one's black. So I'm gonna land the black one that I cut it from right into the heat shrink. Now the other thing we could have done here is I could have just stripped the insulation off and taken this black wire and wrapped it around it and soldered it in and then used a liquid electrical tape, and that would have been sweet. But I'd say this is realistically just as durable, and it's gonna be less work. And I'm not trying to make a big project out of this. It's a pretty simple job. So just knock it out this way. This will be still totally water sealed, and the crimp. I use these. These are a beast. I can crimp them really hard with those, and I really don't have these heat shrink connectors. By the time they're heated up and water sealed and kind of glued in, and they're crimped hard, I really don't have failures. In fact, I can't think of any time I've had a failure with one of these. So as you can see, we're doing 2 wires on one side. That's why I went with the blue. And now you gotta be careful not cut the wires behind this. Okay, so those are crimped in now. Next step, I'm actually gonna do the heat shrink. So I'm just dragging on my heat gun. You could do it with a lighter if you want. The lighter does work okay, but the heat gun's gonna be faster. Hair dryer would work. And you can watch it shrink right down in there. Just be careful not to melt the plastic behind it. Good. So with that, we're pretty darn close to done here. I just got to bring over the lights. So one thing I should mention, this was the low beam right here. So if you want, you can look at the number on it, an HB3. That way, you know when you go to pull these, HB3 goes in the high beam spot. So I'll pull this out real quick here. This is the new LED assembly. HB3 goes in the high beam spot, which is lower, right? Where the bolts go in the headlight, that's the top. So this one definitely goes in the lower. And I'm going to try to get it so the harness points down. Okay, so probably... And same with these tabs. Definitely take some TLC. These ones are going to be for sure a little more forgiving, but you know, because it's actually got a metal plate. All right, so closer look. So high beam HB4, low beam was an H11. In, harness facing down, in, harness facing as close as I could down, and a 2-way tape from the kit comes with these little pads. The box down, the box down. So this baby is now ready to go back in the vehicle. So let me go ahead and get my chest mounted camera on. All right, so we're not going to do the whole thing together, but I'll give you a couple little pointers. One, let me get my camera as aimed as I can. When we slide this in, we're really going to want to be mindful that the paint is not really tough. So in this harness, I may just tuck a little bit better. So when I'm going to get it close here, I'm going to angle this down just a little bit more. I'm kind of trying to work it in gently, but it is going to be a tight fit for sure. It's not, you know, you may be doing something wrong, but it's not just going to fall in there like old times. So now that thing's basically in. I'm going to wedge it back out a hair, and I'm going to make our connection. I needed to get it close enough to make the connection. Now it's a little tough to reach down in there, but I'm going to go ahead and get it. Now, I probably could have connected that a little sooner, and it's proven that I probably should have, but it's not that big of a thing to me. So it's clicked. You heard the click, an audible actual click. Now we're gonna bring this back, and that was super simple. You really didn't need a video for that, but I want to point a couple things out, and I'm gonna pop my camera back off. So down here, these little tabs, man, that light is rough. These little tabs have to land in their spots, and also where that bolt was down there, you have to make sure that's lined up. So when you're doing this, it's going to take a little time. And see, right now that felt pretty close, but it's always good to go ahead and make sure. So I'm going to pull this back, and I'm looking, and you know what? I can already tell we're there. That one's good. These ones up here look good. So that's good enough to just start our bolts. I don't recommend running them down yet, and I'm gonna explain why. Even with the OEM headlights, this is true, but definitely with the aftermarket headlights, you may have some fitment issues. See, like even that one right now, I'm gonna have to get my hands involved and kind of flex this. I'm gonna get all 3 bolts started, and then like what I did on this one is I'm gonna pay a lot of attention to this gap, and I'm gonna want to keep this gap very even all the way around. I'm going to hold it there, and when I'm holding it there, I'm going to tighten them down. So I personally tighten down this side one with this gap good, and then this top one, you can see there's a lot of movement like this. So this bolt is more to set this one flush to the fender here. So I got it flush to the fender, I tightened that one up. And then this one, there wasn't really as much adjustment to, but maybe just a little bit of this way as well. Tighten those down so the headlight sits right. And these tolerances are not as exact as an OEM, so definitely do that. I guess I should specify. Before you get super invested in that, you should probably make sure it works. Okay, so I'm gonna again start with the parking lights. So we got our nice LED strip. Hard to tell with the sunlight. Both ambers are working. I'm gonna go to low beams. Might have left it on high beam, I don't think so. Okay, low beam's working good. You don't want to find out you missed something and then have to take the whole thing back out. So, okay, high beam's good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and button that up, get the headlight lined up nice, and I'm gonna be back. Okay, once you get all your bolts nailed down, get that bolt in the fender liner, both sides. Bring this one back over, and when you're putting this on, make sure you line up all those lower clips, and then start pushing those in. I'm kind of using like my stomach here, my number 1 muscle, and we're just gonna make sure they all land, and then get the upper ones in. And then this is why this is made for the assembly line. I'm just gonna give it pop. Like, that is why those clips are there. All right, don't forget these bolts. I like to line them up to right where the old mark was, so you can see that one's pretty close. I'm just gonna shift it a hair. Okay, I'll do the rest. And of course these clips, easiest things. I'll do the rest. No parts left, I guess that's a good thing. And verifying I'm liking the fitment, everything is looking good. Let me test the lights out. We'll go right for the full-on headlights. So these LEDs are going to be substantially brighter for him out here on these country roads. So that's your complete job. They should be pre-aimed. I'm getting about right here. Yeah, about the same spot. There are aiming mechanisms, but I don't anticipate really needing it. But in the case that they were too high or too low, this is your height adjuster here. So you'd use, I'm gonna say it's probably like a 6mm long Allen, and you can get right to the grill through there. So that's the only other thing to keep in mind. And I'm not really gonna cover that because I think these ones are looking pretty good. So there you go.